Hi, I'm Rick Romanowski with the Mourning Photographic Company, and today we're at the Garden of the Gods. And I guess Red Rocks too, I guess. Who cares?
In August of 1859, two surveyors were sniffing around the Rocky Mountain foothills in search of a place to establish a new town called Colorado City. What they found instead were looming spires, jagged peaks, blazing red monolithic rocks churned up from the depths of the earth, and breathtaking formations layered by millions of years' worth of colorful sedimentary deposits. One of the surveyors, M.S. Beach, declared upon seeing this wonder, "It would be a capital place for a beer garden." I have no idea if he was British or not, but fuck it. His companion, Rufus Cable, then exclaimed, "Beer garden? Why, it is a fit place for the gods to assemble. We will call it the Garden of the Gods." He almost certainly did not have a transatlantic accent, but fuck it. And so the name stuck. In 1879, railway executive Charles Eliot Perkins purchased 240 acres of property in the Garden of the Gods for a summer home he never built. Instead, before he passed away in 1907, he asked that the land be given to the state of Colorado so that the public could enjoy the beauty as a public park. Actually, to declare the area as an important site was an uphill battle, mostly thanks to Perkins. In 1886, a bill was introduced in Congress to designate Garden of the Gods as a national park. It would have been the third national park after Yellowstone and the now decommissioned Mackinac National Park. The bill failed, however, because too much land in the proposed boundary was privately owned. Thanks, Chuck. 2 years after he died in 1909, his children finally figured out his dying wishes and gifted the land to the state. 62 years later, in 1971, Garden of the Gods became a national natural landmark. And then finally, in 1979, it was listed on the National Registry of Historic Places. I was on my own this time. With me, I took my Nikon F2, my 1917 Kodak Autographic Junior, and my number 2 folding cartridge Premo from 1919, which was the first antique camera I ever bought. There were holes in the bellows, but they added a nice effect. I used low-speed black and white film because that is what they were made for, and the photos the Kodaks produced are incredible. You would swear they were from the time period. Now, as we set about this photo journey, let's wind the clocks back a really long time to find out how this beautiful place came to be. It all started millions of years ago, when a large inland sea covered Colorado. Actually, it covered way more than Colorado. It is known as the Western Interior Seaway because it stretched from the Gulf of Mexico to the Arctic Sea, and it split North America in half. This area would be home to the ancestral Rockies. Streams would then erode these ancient mountain ranges, and the debris would settle in the floodplains and compact into sedimentary rock. The sea withdrew, leaving behind a lush tropical freshwater environment, but it also left layers and layers of mud and more sediment. A new mountain range would begin to emerge, and in that upheaval, the Fountain and Lions formations were pushed to their current vertical inclinations. As these mountains rose, the basins sank and the rivers and streams deposited more sediment into the plain. It takes enormous pressure to produce mountains, and all that pressure draws up the buried rock formations like a natural butter churner. After a few more millennia, that second range of mountains also eroded. Finally, the third and final range of mountains began to form, the modern-day Rockies. The climate dried, the sea disappeared, and the land fell under the veil of a literal dune sea. All that swept sand left layers and layers of even more sediment. In fact, the steep angular layering in the rocks are indicative of ancient sand dunes. Eventually, after a few more million years, again the dunes disappeared, and all those layers of swept sand were buried under new sediment. The area around the Rockies has always expanded and contracted like a pair of lungs due to the subduction zone that separates the North American plate from the Pacific Plate. In time, this new range of mountains will become the Rockies we know today. The Pleistocene Ice Age had now dawned. This period lasted from 2.58 million years ago to only 11,700 years ago. As always, the mountains rose, and they upheaved all those vibrant layered sheets of sedimentary rock. Then, during glaciation, the streams eroded some of the mountains, but also washed away the millennia of debris to expose what would be the Garden of the Gods. It was now 1330 BC. Egypt was in its 18th dynasty, with rulers like Akhenaten and Tutankhaten, and our ancient ancestors finally discovered the garden for the first time. Then, in 250 BC, native peoples arrived, marking the area with petroglyphs. For the Utis, the rocks would come to hold great spiritual significance. Now, fast forward a few hundred years, and the site would become a monstrous tourist attraction, and an amphitheater would be inexplicably built in the center. The red rocks are indescribable. I was awestruck by their red vibrancy. Seeing those distinct layers myself, millennia of natural sculpting running beneath my fingers, felt inspiring. It was smooth and perfect. I heard the wind whistling through the peaks and the little canyons. Sometimes a breeze would get caught in the alcoves, kicking up leaves and spinning in little vortexes. None of the tourists could disrupt that quiet, pensive beauty. I saw it all. The lion's sandstone. 3 graces. The fountain outcropping. Steamboat rock. And balanced rock. I walked 17 plus miles. Then, before leaving, I climbed the highest point in the park to gaze out into that magnificent plain that formed 55 million years ago. Climbing back down, I heard a tourist mutter, I still don't get it. It's just a bunch of rocks. And with that, until next time, take care.